Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our watch club for She-Hulk, Attorney at Law. This is a mess. None of these storylines make any sense. Come at me, bro, and welcome to Watch Club. My name is Nate, and this is our watch club for She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, Episode 9, the finale, titled Whose Show Is This? Directed by Kat Coiro. If you're joining us for the first time, well, this is Watch Club, our weekly review series, kind of like a book club, but way better. Keep in mind, we will be going into full spoilers for this series and the MCU in general, so if you haven't watched this week's episode yet, be sure to do so, and then come right back in a snap. Now, hold on a second. Okay, listener, hey, listener. Is anyone else there? Is it just you and me? Great. Okay, I know you're listening in your car, or you're walking your dog right now, or you're doing chores around the house, and you're thinking, oh, I wish Nate would break the fourth wall and talk directly to me like She-Hulk in the show. Well, congrats. This is me talking directly to you, and I want to let you know that this isn't the end for Watch Club. It's not the only Watch Club we've got going on right now. In fact, we also have another Watch Club going on for Andor, with our first Watch Club episode out right now, where we break down and share our thoughts and theories on the first 3 episodes. And now that episode 6 is out, oh my gosh, listener, did you tell me right now, did you watch episode 6? Right? It was incredible. So phenomenal. If you want to check out that Watch Club, that's going to be coming soon. You can join the rebellion, give that a listen, and do me a favor, subscribe if you haven't already. Do it. Just look, if you scroll up a little bit, tap subscribe right there. There you go. Awesome. All right, well, let's get back to the show. Breaking the fourth wall, the fifth wall, and even the sixth wall with me today. We have our other Hulksters joining me. First up, he's the judicial, jaunty, and jazzy jelly bean of justice. He's Justin, the lawman, Lawrence.
What's up, bro? And what's up, listeners? How are you? Doing well? Enjoying your drive? Enjoying your walk?
We're addressing the listeners directly now. We have
the
power.
I kind of think the point of a podcast is to break the fourth wall and is to address the audience. So
yeah. Okay.
You know, maybe we're just behind on this whole meta quality of what a podcast is, but I love that you're interjecting it. Very fitting.
Okay. I appreciate that. Next up, he's ready to dismiss the deliberation of the deposition given by the defendant of the defenders. He's Darcy, the dank devil Hudson.
Hello. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about breaking the fourth wall in a podcast. It's supposed to be a conversation between the people here, not the people who we can't hear.
Well, they can't really communicate
right
back. I know. I kind of felt a little Dora the Explorer.
Communication there.
I did feel like I was, But listen, I enjoy it. I like implementing a little bit of meta humor in my shows that I watch and in the podcasts that I record. But listen, joining us for the first time on this Watch Club, but you've heard her spitting mad facts on the courts before. She's here to viciously vacate the vigilantes who vehemently void any vicarious viability via vexatious variances. While verifying her verdict, she's the video dame from twitch.tv. It's your girl, Alyssa.
What's up? Hey, listener. What drive-thru you in? You get burgers? Coffee?
Get some nuggies.
Just give me something. Just send it to us. Yeah, we'll give you the address later. No worries. Yeah, nuggies would be great.
How's it going, Alyssa? Stoked to have you on for Watch Club again. I remember you messaged me really early on before the show even dropped, as soon as we started hearing about it, and you're like, I need to talk about this show.
Absolutely. I think it was pre-Ms. Marvel, and I was like, if you don't have time for me and Ms. Marvel, that's fine. She-Hulk, I have to be a part of it.
Gotta get on there.
She's so sassy. I love her.
We gotta talk about Tatiana and Nikki
girl.
and Pug and Titania and all these wonderful folks. Well, all right. Well, last week, Darcy, I asked you what tactic you'd choose to take out a room of henchgoons, and we both went with stealth, obviously. This week, I want to know for all three of you... Actually, no, I'm going to go meta with it again. Hello and welcome to the Geekcentric podcast where we discuss our favorite podcast. Joining me on the podcast this week, we have my fellow podcasters, Justin, Darcy, and Alyssa. How's it going today, podcasters?
I've already said hi. It feels weird again.
Yeah.
Just keep saying the word podcast. All right, well, listen, let's kick off the podcast with our guest. Alyssa, I want to ask, what podcast have you been enjoying lately?
Ooh, other than this podcast, because this is maybe one of the only ones I listen to on the regular. I do also listen to a show called The Comment Section with Drew Afualo. Are you guys familiar?
No. Drew
I'm
Afwalo.
not surprised. Yeah. So Drew Afwalo is I would say like a feminist vigilante from TikTok, and she stitches TikToks of like really awful men who are just like calling out women for stupid things. And she just like chirps back at them and compares them to like McDonald's Happy Meal toys or like stupid. You'd have to really look it up, but basically she is a defender of like women, and she has lots of guests on her show. She had like drag queens on her show. She had other TikTok stars, and she is who I imagine Nikki would be in the MCU. This is the kind of podcast that she would have.
That Nikki would make. Oh, I like it. Very fitting.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
fits with the themes of the show, I think, quite a bit.
Absolutely.
As we'll be digging into. Cool. Okay. Darcy, how about yourself? What's a podcast you've been enjoying lately?
I'm not the biggest podcast listener. I'm more of an audiobook fan, but when I do dabble in the podcast era, it's usually some sort of D&D podcast or other, or If I Were You by Jake and Amir, big fan of the College Humor duo, and it's their podcast after they've left College Humor, and it's just, a life discussion podcast, and the two guys are hilarious, so very enjoyable as they get down to earth and talk about some very random and out there topics.
That's dope. Yeah, it's nice to kind of again, like I think when you follow a group of people and then sometimes you see them split off into their own thing. I know for myself, shout out to the Kind of Funny podcast, who just recently celebrated their new studio launch, most of them broke off from IGN and then formed their own thing. So that's cool when you can sort of follow people even though they might have left their previous like corporation or company that they worked for. Justin, how about yourself? What's a podcast you've been digging on lately, dude?
I'm a big fan of behind the scenes. So the director's cut, it's the DGA. They have a podcast where they sit down with directors of films, and it's a director interviewing a director, and they have a conversation about the movie. So these are conversations that are held at the DGA, at the Directors Guild Association, for the community, and they record it and they share it, and it's really good. It's some really insightful stuff. They've had some great pairings. For me, at least, I just love learning the insights of what goes into making the things that we love, as we do here on the podcast. So that kind of very much fuels what we do here in many ways, right? Just having that sort of inspiration and that knowledge base to just kind of be inspired by the work that we enjoy outside of just pure entertainment, right?
And it's kind of neat too. Like I love that because it's like you sort of get to stand there for that conversation of the meeting of the minds, right? Of these people that they collectively do the same thing, and so you can sort of, in a way, you almost feel like, oh, I'm a part of this conversation too, and I get to hear these two talents talk about the things that they do every day, and also like I guess in a way, they just sort of connect over those things, right? And to be there for those connecting moments where like, oh, okay, tell me what you do when you run into this problem. And then they get to reveal that to each other and trade those secrets is so cool. Yeah. So dope. Very cool. For me, listen, our regular listeners of the Geekcentric podcast will be upset with me. Got a lot of podcast fans listening to this because they've been telling me to listen to this podcast for a long time, but I've really been getting into Smartless, hosted by Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes, and Will Arnett. If you haven't already checked out Smartless, it is
so good.
Phenomenal. Kind of like what you were just talking about, Justin, of like, when I think of these three comedians, I think they are phenomenal. They're iconic, and they're fantastic actors. And then so to hear them geek out with meeting people like Mike Myers, or their Ewan McGregor episode, which is just one of the most delightful things. I just listened to their Jack Black episode as well. It's honestly, I highly recommend it. It's such a good time, such a good conversation. But that is it for this week's episode of the Geekcentric podcast. Tune in next week where we discuss podcasts we don't like. But for now, let's get back to Watch Club. Listen, it's time to grab a drink and Hulk smash through the thumbnail of Marvel Studios Assembled, because court is now in session with the Honorable Judge Nate presiding. This finale kicks off this week with the Marvel fanfare, followed by an incredible opening where we see a remake of the original 1978's The Incredible Hulk opening credits, this time starring Jen in The Savage She-Hulk. And I have to say, this was, like, I loved this tribute. Before we keep going, I wanted to ask, what did you folks think of this opener?
I love that they had someone that was like a Lou Ferrigno playing the hulked out version of Jennifer Lawrence
Yes.
rather than a CGI. I thought that was so, like, again, they really leaned into the sort of, again, nostalgia or, you know, that type of filmmaking approach, which I thought was just spot on, and it had me laughing. But I also think that it's a reminder of, based off of where we ended last week's episode, about that savage side, that monster side that lives inside of Jen, known as the Hulk. And, you know, this series has been playing very fast and loose with the sort of comedic and very self-referential humor that, you know, last week's episode ended on that note of, as a reminder that she is still a Hulk, that there is still a animalistic or, you know, monster-like quality that lives inside of her that we saw kind of unleashed in a way that I thought was very triggering for, I think, a lot of women. It was very interesting. So to kick this episode off with this sort of tongue-in-cheek, you know, retro intro to kind of remind us of how the Hulk was sold so many years ago as this monster, as this beast, and kind of really does have you calling back to the end of the episode. So I thought it was really smart. It just kind of, it almost served as like the previously on, right? Sort of aspect of the episode.
Absolutely. In a fun, creative way. I love the letterboxing, how it goes back to that old letterbox style, and the fact that, yeah, it is paying tribute to the Bill Bixby series, but it's also remaking it. A lot of the backgrounds were lifted from the original show, that narration, and like you said, the choice to have the Hulk version of Jen different, because that's what they did with Lou Ferrigno. In the original show, David Banner, who's played by Bill Bixby, which I know it's really dumb that they called him David Banner, because apparently the showrunners were a bunch of Todd-like men who said that the name Bruce was too gay to be the Hulk. Didn't make any sense for me.
How's Bruce a gay name? That's what I can't get my head around.
I don't understand.
Manly name, if anything.
What is a gay name?
How is any name a gay
that's-
name?
yeah,
Like, I just, what?
yeah.
How do you decide that? It's so silly.
It's so random.
Stupid.
There's so many Todds in this world, unfortunately. But I will say, fun fact, I thought the actor playing the Hulk version might have been Malia Nahinu, who is the VFX reference actress for
Right, the tall-
Tatiana. But it's not.
Yeah.
It's actually a man named Devon Lewis, who is a
Yes.
bodybuilder on TikTok.
Amazing.
So he was phenomenal, and it's really interesting too. You think you don't, you know, that Marvel doesn't let anything slip. He posted a picture of a sequence of his face as She-Hulk forever ago, like 3 weeks ago, and nobody
wow.
caught on. So really intriguing.
It
And
is
I also
almost Halloween, so
I
Yeah,
guess
exactly.
I mean-
and
Yeah.
yeah,
Maybe.
and She-Hulk is very relevant. So,
But dude,
you know,
this
with
was like
very
this was
open
straight up a
communities.
picture. But dude, this was straight up a picture of a monitor on the lot of him in that moment. So I was like, I don't know how he got away with that, but that's listen.
Well, people have gotten away with a lot worse. I think that's a very low key one, right?
And
So-
looking at pictures of him, I wouldn't be the
Jamie Foxx.
I wouldn't go up with him. Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's also crazy to think that the footage of Jen and Bruce in that 70s style clothing that we saw forever ago in the first trailer, it's just dope to see that it was like meant for an actual episode and not just the promo. Alyssa, what did you think of this opener?
Absolutely. I had very similar thoughts. I thought for a moment, well, I had never seen the original Incredible Hulk, so I was like, this is cool. Is this like kind of referencing like something older?
Yeah.
But I had a similar thought to you where I was like, oh, cool. Like they released this at Disney Plus Day, I think last year, and now we finally get to see it. But my thought process was like, did they maybe think of using it as like a credit sequence at the beginning, or like was it always meant to be at the very end as like a Jen Walters is saying you're stupid to the intelligentsia?
Yeah.
Like, was that its intention the whole time? Because
Yeah.
I thought it was so fun.
It's so good.
I-
So good.
I think so. I think it was meant to be, like, there was a lot of people that were posting that photo on like Twitter and stuff like that from that first trailer, being like, so is this gonna happen? Like, when are we gonna get this sequence that we saw so many
Right.
months ago, or when the first trailer dropped? And it's great that they put it here, because I think, again, it just, we already know all of the history of the Hulk, and even in a pop culture capacity. So to save that for the finale, and again as a way to kind of connect the ending of episode 8 to episode 9 in a very tongue-in-cheek way. Again, I don't think we got it previously on. Did
No.
we in this episode? No. So
this was
I
the
kind
first
of
time we
feel
went
like
right into the fanfare. Yeah.
Right. We went right into the fanfare, and then we went into this intro, and this intro actually encompasses a lot of what happened in the previously on, in the sense of talking about her rage and her sort of in animalistic instincts and the monster inside of her, while also showing us Todd, Intelligentsia, all of this stuff. Like it gave it, and I think they even had Polanski in there. Emil was in there as well, right? So it served as that previously on, and I think it was really very much trying to encapsulate much of what has happened throughout the season so far. So I thought it was just a great way to do it, right? Like, just very fun.
Darcy, what about you?
I enjoyed the opening. It was great. I mean, you guys have said a lot of things I liked about it, so I'm not gonna be a broken record here. I really enjoyed the opening.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, listen, after that incredible dream sequence opener, or maybe it was more of a nightmare sequence opener, we see Jen has awoken in the same style cell as Emil Blonsky at the Damage Control Supermax prison. Mallory, Nikki, and Pug walk in to inform Jen that they've left multiple messages for Bruce, and that she can leave the prison as long as she agrees to the same terms as Emil Blonsky, because like him, the general public see her as an out-of-control Hulk. So they strap an inhibitor onto her leg, and she joins her parents outside the prison. She moves back in with her parents, and she's let go from her job at GLK&H. Her name is being slandered all over the news, and one thing she never really asked for but has to learn to cope with has now been taken from her. She can't turn into the Hulk. So Nikki and her start to devise a plan of action, what to do, how can they destroy them by all means, legally, of course. And we get an incredible and hilarious look at Jen and her friends dancing in a video she made during while she was in law school. And finally, the original dickhead, Dennis Bukowski, is shown where he claims that he actually dated Jen in an interview with Jefferson Coop on The Conversation. We see Jen in her room as she breaks the fourth wall once again. She stops the narrator, and she decides to visit Emil Blonsky at his retreat so she can get a mental health break. So before we keep going here, kind of a fun question that Alyssa actually helped me out with. Jen's mom, Elaine, showed that incredible video, and honestly, that hit me with the nostalgic feels, because I'm sure we all have those videos that we made that we'd rather not see the light of day. I gotta ask, can any of you think of a video or recorded moment that you did when you were younger that you really hope doesn't ever show up ever again? Darcy, why don't you kick us off?
I mean, not really. Anything that we do have that's recorded or stuff like that, I'm an idiot in, which is pretty true to form. I'm kind of always an idiot, so it's just people getting to see the real me, I guess. So I wouldn't be too embarrassed by anything, because again, I probably do the same thing nowadays. So
right. No, I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Justin, how about yourself?
I guess it would have been when I was younger and I was acting in like drama class and stuff like that. And like sometimes looking back at those, like thinking back, I'm just like, damn, I think that would definitely make me feel embarrassed of like watching like an old performance from a stage play that I did when I was like in grade 6 or 7. I think that would be pretty embarrassing, but thankfully I don't think those tapes exist.
We gotta find them. We gotta find them. Alyssa, what about you?
I think that like Darcy, like I'm just a very strange person, and throughout my whole life I've always done weird stuff, but the difference about me is that if I do something embarrassing, a lot of the time I just want to like show it off to everybody. So there's a very distinct video of me after I got my wisdom teeth taken out.
Oh, it's so good.
It's called Show Me Your Teeth.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube. You could look it up. It's free. And I quote like "Show Me Your Teeth" by Lady Gaga, and I am like touching my gauze and crying and sobbing, and it's quite sad actually, but it is a 2-part series, so feel free to look it up on YouTube.
Yeah, you can definitely find it. You can buy the merch. I know there's a whole
buy it on iTunes. Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. For me, the only one I can think of, I made some videos in high school with my friends Luke and Jake and Kai, where we did what we thought was like a parody of The Office. It was called Tales from the Market. And basically, we would go around Newmarket, and we probably were terrorizing local businesses by running like around all these different stores. I remember this one time where like I ran by this like old lady, and she's like, "How old are you?" And I was like, "I don't know." And then I just ran away. And like, there's another moment where like I'm crying at one point because my friend Gordy, who was a gourd, got smashed to pieces. And then another moment where I'm running across a parking lot, shouting, "For Nazareth!" And I start yelling and running towards the Toys R Us. It's one of those things that, like, looking back, you're like, this was so stupid. But when you're in the middle of making it, you feel like you're on fire. Like, you're like, this is the next big viral thing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I thought I was David After Dentist. 100%.
That's it.
I thought it was going on Ellen.
You're like,
it
it's
was
gonna
everything.
happen. It's gonna happen.
You got to monetize your embarrassment. That's what I'm saying.
100%. And Nikki does just that. She's actually a straight up genius, and she uses that video of Jen dancing as bait for the Hulk King, and she scores an invite to a private event that's happening that night. So she enlists Pug and drives him to the event. And Jen's also unknowingly in the next building, and she doesn't know what's going on next to her here. And you know, we see Emil is actually hosting the meditation retreat. So Pug walks in and says a bunch of gross stuff about quote-unquote females. And then we see freaking Todd is not only there, but yes, he is confirmed as the Hulk King. So folks, what did we think of this meeting of the bros and Nikki and Pug's infiltration mission?
I thought it was very meta in a different way. I actually had to pause it and laugh about like their critiques on how She-Hulk got her powers from nepotism and things like that.
Oh yeah,
it very much reflects like the Dude Bros reactions to this show, and I love that like they saw that reaction from the public that we don't like to talk about, coming from miles and miles away. Like this was pre-planned, and this is exactly how people are reacting to the show. So I'm hopeful that they'll like see it and reflect on how they're acting and maybe see it in themselves. You know what I mean? Like you're watching evil in front of you.
Yeah, I know. And I just think that at this point too, I don't know if that audience is going to be changed. They're still going to have
there's no
that negativity.
Yeah.
But I do agree. I think what's kind of funny is how they're looking to complain about Jen Walters and She-Hulk in a way that doesn't even make sense. Right.
Absolutely.
Like and that's very much like the reaction rather around this series is that there's just not a real justification to why the show doesn't work other than the obvious, which is, well, she's a woman. It's a story about a woman. And that to me is, you know, like you're saying, they're poking fun at that. They're making fun of that fan. And though that fan basis and that existence of that visceral sort of hate. But I think they knew that this was going to happen. I think everyone, they knew from the get-go that this was going to have that sort of reaction, because social media is what it is nowadays, right? There's even obviously with the intelligentsia that is a very self-referential part of that sort of fandom and the reactions to it. So I think it's all purposeful and it's all meaningful. And yeah, I loved how they were trying to like give crazy ass justification as to why like she doesn't deserve the powers. I'm like, this is so dumb, right?
Like,
like,
makes sense.
These guys are all the worst. And like, I agree. Like, it's like the writers literally searched for comments on Twitter and on Facebook and Instagram and just like found, you know, all these previous Marvel projects where they basically just picked up those comments and then lifted their dialogue right from it. The mention of Lady Thor and how that guy doesn't like her because she's a female, but then he's like, but if it was a dude, I'd have the same problems. I'm like, Thor exists. Does Thor not exist? I don't understand. And then it
points out the flaws in their arguments.
Unreal,
right?
dude. When Nikki arrives later in the scene, right? You hear a guy in the background. He's like, another one. And I'm just like,
another one. Yeah, I was like, fuck, man.
Brutal. And then like, I got to admit, like at first I was like, oh, the wrecking guy. You know, the wrecking crew guy, wrecker guy or whatever, he's finally, okay, he's kind of come around. But then he still does the gross forced hug thing when he tells Jen that he'll put her up in a room. And I'm just like, dude, like, I get that you think you're close to Jen. You're not as close as you think you are. And that just came off not great. Not great. I don't know, man. Again, I just think like it's just all these guys are just absolutely terrible. And it's so unfortunate that like it's too real.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, obviously meant to hate everyone at that little man meeting or whatever. So definitely
meeting.
got that point across very
Yeah.
quickly. But what I liked even more is the fact that there is immediately the subtle foreshadowing as to where this event was taking place with the bad reception.
Yes.
Like
It was good.
this is the only place on the property where she could get a clear reception on her cell phone. And here Pug is having trouble with reception. So it's like, oh no. And then you start seeing the posters in the background. It's like, oh God, don't tell me where this is going.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that aspect of their little storytelling, jaunt here.
And I love the idea that like the Abomination is just like, I'm just going to take money from these guys, but then like I don't know if he feels like he's actually helping them or if it's just all a money grab. But honestly, every moment with Pug, shout out to Pug and Nikki, especially Nikki, who have just been so phenomenal in this series. I would watch an entire show that was just Pug and Nikki, like trying to solve things for Jen in the background. Like, honestly,
just a buddy cop.
it's so good.
Yeah.
I love that.
So good. When she's like, oh, everyone will have one of those in their ear. Don't worry about it. It's like, yeah, absolutely. All these chats.
It was such a bad plan. I'm like, why is no one asking him about that damn single AirPod that's just sitting in his ear, right?
They all do that, dude. They all do it.
No one cares about anyone except
Oh
for
my
themselves.
gosh.
So it
Oh
doesn't
my
really
gosh.
matter.
All right. So then Abomination shows up as the guest speaker at the event, followed by Jen. Then Nikki shows up. Then Todd injects his blood, or Jen's blood into himself and grotesquely turns himself into a Hulk, which I got to say, like, looked terrifying.
That was Ang Lee Hulk right there, transformation wise. Like that was so bad.
It was pretty brutal. Titania shows up, crashes through the door. I love how Nikki's like, does this bitch not use doors? Like, what?
Yeah.
It's so good. And
so
then
funny.
things just get so messy. They start going off the wall. Hulk, like Bruce, shows up and crashes through the ceiling and tells Emil to put Jen down. And then everything starts going crazy. And then Jen looks at the camera and says, "Is this working for you?" And then immediately, we were all taken out of the show back to the Disney Plus app Marvel section, where Jen tells us that the menu's not going to stop her, and she smashes out of the She-Hulk thumbnail and into the Marvel Studios assembled Shang-Chi episode thumbnail, bringing her directly onto a Marvel Studios soundstage. She walks across the Disney lot and eventually into the She-Hulk writers' room, where they're discussing the writing on the show. So listen, before we go further, let's get to this here. What was your first impression as this was all happening? Alyssa, why don't you kick us off?
I was like, this is a lot. I was watching, I was at the edge of my seat, and I was like, oh, he's turning into a Hulk. Is he going to be Red Hulk? No. Wait, Bruce is back. Wait, why is Bruce back? He's not supposed to be the hero of her like story. I don't understand what's happening. So I was like very overwhelmed, and as soon as like cut to the Disney Plus scene, I was like, oh, please fix that. Because like this is obviously the moral of the story. The title of the episode was like, whose show is it? It's like, it's my show, right? So I was really hoping that there would be some kind of like backpedaling to give her the main like spotlight. But yeah, it was a lot. I was very overwhelmed.
Yeah. Darcy, what about you?
I loved it. Again, as a fan of the comics, this is straight from how she used to break the fourth wall by ripping through the little panels of her comic to talk to the writers and stuff. So this moment of her, the modern version of ripping through panels is punching through the title card for your own show. I loved it. And it got me excited for more future fourth wall breaking, both from Jen Walters and whatever show or movie she pops up in next, and Deadpool. Like the fourth wall seems like MCU knows how to break it and make it fun and enjoyable.
Yeah, this was the most impressive fourth wall breaking that I've ever seen on screen, and I was shook. I reached for my remote initially. I thought I sat on it. I thought I sat on the remote. I was like, oh shoot, and then I just really quick, because Darcy, you mentioned the comics. Outside the writer's room is this week's QR code, the final QR code for the show, which actually brings us to the sensational She-Hulk number 50, where Jen travels to the offices of Marvel Comics, which, again, such a meta choice for this week's comic for them to give away. So definitely scan that QR code, read that comic book. But Justin, what was your initial thoughts when this happened?
Well, very much like Alyssa, it was overwhelming. And I was like, this isn't what they're doing, right? Like they're not just about to have like a shit show of everyone just showing up into one room and everything's just going to go crazy. And yeah, when that screen popped up, I was like, oh, this is part of a fourth wall breaking moment. And then we get further into it. And I love that, again, as you pointed out, Darcy, this exists in the comics, and the fact that QR code, as you pointed out, Nate, is a reference to that. There's a reason for it, and it's more tailored to this She-Hulk and this version of that character. So I think it's, again, to find a way to actually take that story and integrate it into this episode as part of the finale, I think that's great. It was definitely jarring, but again, with all of the subtle, small amounts of fourth wall breaking we've gotten throughout the rest of the season, this, as you said, Nate, is so extreme. It felt like, okay, we're going there. We are fully going there, right? So I'm glad that it was saved as a finale element, because it gave justification for it, and it also pushed the boundaries. If they had done this maybe earlier in, halfway through, or even maybe closer towards the end, I don't know if it would have landed. I think here it actually kind of gave it a little bit more of a elevation, just because we've had such small amounts of it throughout. Right. That this one was like intense. It was very much in your face.
It was so good. I want to say the multiple posters of Cap that we see on the lot that says, "I want you to put down your cell phone," the "I want you" posters. Originally I thought it was a reference to Jen's phone because her wallpaper is America's ass, obviously. But then writer Matt Singer actually posted that they are real posters that are on the Marvel lot, and they're meant to remind people to protect the secrecy of the things that they see on the lot. So I think that's so dope. I loved when we got into the writers' room. Jessica Gao was there. Justin, you interviewed someone who was actually on the show. Jessica Gao was there.
Didn't say anything. She just nodded. I was hoping
true.
She would have actually said more, because she is like super funny. She's a comedian. So I was like, oh, great. This is going to be a great opportunity for Jessica to interact with the character she's writing for with other writers, right? Like kind of speaking on behalf, like she's sort of the showrunner. But they obviously pit those lines, I guess, with I'm gonna imagine they were actually actors and not the real writers, but the rest of them could have been the other
some of them
writers
were. Some
of the
were.
show. Yeah, I'm sure some of them were, right? So, but I'm sure the talking lines came from actors, right? But I would have loved to have seen Jessica just kind of chime in a little bit there and kind of give her sort of opinion. It would have been nice, because she's super funny, even from that interview. Like she's so with it. I feel like she could improv really well.
Yeah, Cody Ziegler was shown on screen as well. He actually is one of the writers for Miles Morales, and he actually wrote last week's episode as well, nice. And he was the lead writer for that. But yeah, dude, I think there could have been maybe a little bit more banter, but I loved kind of my eyes were darting all around the room. Like that whiteboard, there was some funny stuff on, like there's something written down says there's something attractive about a man's knees. I was just like, what? They also wrote down Gamma Goo, Nanobots, the Incredible Hulk. But interestingly enough, there is one that, for me at least, kind of foreshadowed the ending of this episode and how, I think maybe people like myself might feel about it, which it just says, in quotes, "but there's no wowie at the end." So obviously I'm going to go into that a little bit later on in my final thoughts, but it's just nuts that they just seem to know what they were doing during this production. I think it's crazy that I did hear that there were some reshoots that they did do a little bit here and there, but this is reminding me of the kind of stuff you'd expect out of like South Park. You know what I mean? Like it's a very sort of, I know with South Park they're up to the minute when they put those projects out. So.
Isn't Jessica Gao a writer for Rick and Morty?
She is, yes.
She is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So okay, that makes
it
a
also
lot of
fits.
sense, then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just another thing about this sequence too, I gotta say, it's probably the best that She-Hulk has looked CGI wise throughout the whole series.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of funny that it isn't this big action moment where it's a clobber fest. It's more just really her breaking that fourth wall and going further than that. And I thought it was incredible. She looks so realistic considering she was supposed to be coming into our real world. So I thought that was a really cool touch.
Totally. Totally. All right, well, let's keep going here, because this is where it really pops off. So then Jen learns that she has to talk to K.E.V.I.N. She breaks into the Marvel head office where she's forced to sign an NDA, even though the secretary just pulls the alarm on her anyways. She beats up the guards in the hallway and breaks into Kevin's office, where we see a bunch of screens playing like all the different Marvel movies. And then we learn that Kevin is not Kevin Feige, or even a man, but a robot with the acronym name of K.E.V.I.N, which stands for Knowledge Enhanced Visual Interconnectivity Nexus. Jen and Kevin discuss how the show is basically just repeating the mistakes of the previous Marvel plotlines and how she thinks the show should end. Kevin makes the changes for her, and we see the Bloodline plot removed, Bruce showing up to save the day was removed, Emil Blonsky taking responsibility for his actions, and instead of night, like most of the MCU show finales, it's daytime. Jen then steps back into the show. She confronts Todd, telling him she'll see him in court, letting Emil know that he's going back to prison for 10 years. And then we also see Daredevil one more time as he's randomly spawned in like a video game character. And Jen and him have a really lovely connection moment, and then Pug's like super shocked by that. And he's like freaking out. So let's stop here. What did you folks think of K.E.V.I.N and the changes made to the ending of the show's final act?
First off, the thing I like about Kevin the most is the fact that his three lenses are space, reality, and time. And when you look at movies and entertainment, like TV and stuff like that in general, those are what they're manipulating to tell stories. The space with, where you're looking. Reality is where superheroes exist, and time where weeks will pass in the matter of moments. And so the fact that that's how this robot who is orchestrating the entire MCU views things, I thought is a very meta way. And plus his little like hat that he's wearing as well, as a
so
nod
good.
to the actual Kevin Feige.
So good.
The character of Kevin is incredible, and I hope we get more of him somehow.
It's interesting because I know the Phase Zero guys did a like conversation with Jessica, and she wanted to put a hat on the machine, and they couldn't actually put a physical hat, so they built it into the machine, so it was kind of like a part of it, and it made sense. So I think that's really funny. I got a lot of Matrix vibes from this, obviously, with the architect at the end of Matrix Reloaded.
Spoilers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
You haven't watched
I've only seen the first one, but I'm only also like 25 years late, so don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. You're very late. It has that meta quality where it does sort of challenge the existence, but at the same time it's more tongue in cheek. Obviously, as we're saying, it is very self-referential, and she's aware of the storytelling mechanism that is. So I love that she's calling out the sort of faults of past series just to kind of help get us in a different direction, and honestly just kind of talking about all the idea of like really expectations, fans' expectations and series expectations, and very much in these last moments before we get to the final wrap up of the scene there, it is very much her just saying like, take this out, get this out, we don't need this, right? Like a reminder that she wants the show to stay true to form and be focused about her, right?
Yeah, more like with her sitting down and getting more into it and talking about X-Men after, nixing all these other things from her own ending, it just all of a sudden made me realize that Kevin is very similar to an X-Men villain, being Mojo, who runs this interdimensional TV channel, and he's all about trying to record and set up all these X-Men in these terrible situations to get great entertainment out of it. So that's with the way that Daredevil even pops in later on, it leads me to wonder is like maybe Kevin is more than just a fourth wall breaking device. What if she is actually trapped in some other, separate reality or something like that? Like, I don't know. It was very...
Mojo was a weird character though, too, right? He was very eccentric and very like, he was almost like very like huge too, wasn't he? He was like,
he was like a weird alien in a crab suit type thing.
Yeah, in a crab suit.
Very much like,
yeah,
very wild and out there, but it got a lot of Mojo vibes from Kevin, especially once you drop that X-Men bomb.
Yeah.
I connected those dots.
That was some of my favorite comedic moments also, where she's like, and when are we getting the X-Men? And then she was like,
with the thumbs up.
So
she's like, I'm on it, guys. I'm on it. I'm trying to get
Absolutely.
the answers for you.
Yeah, she broke the fourth, fifth, and sixth wall, is talking to Kevin, and then she broke the wall again to talk to us afterwards.
Yeah.
Just mind-boggling.
It's like 8 walls.
One of my favorite quotes from this scene was, I smashed fourth walls and bad endings, and sometimes Matt Murdock.
Oh, it's so
Which
good.
I thought was amazing.
So good. I was
Maybe think of Nate last week.
Last week, just Darcy and I were on the episode, and I couldn't stop.
Oh my god,
loving the fact that they smashed. I do like when she says bring Daredevil back because a woman has needs. And the robot saying historically we've been light in that department is so freaking true. And it's been one of those things that, like, honestly, they've never really addressed sex in the MCU, especially from the woman's side. And these characters are supposed to be something that we align with as humans. And a lot of MCU fans are adults, so it just makes sense that by this point, after all these movies, that we would start to see some that actually have characters that have sex and that we could connect with them on that level.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I have not heard the last podcast that you guys released, but did you talk about the moment where she was like, this episode came to a very satisfying conclusion?
Absolutely.
Trust me.
Oh, yeah.
You did.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Nate
I was
really
like, hey-o.
Yes.
Oh, trust me. I dug into that.
Oh my god, I love it.
But I also dug the musical stinger for Black Panther when he calls out the visual effects team has moved on to another project. Oh my gosh.
So good.
So good. And then, like, they keep the camera off her to save money. I was dying the entire time. And Darcy, I do have to wonder, kind of like what you were just saying there. She's jumping into this universe, or maybe this is another universe. Maybe it's not our universe. It's another universe where Kevin Feige doesn't exist, right? And this robot is there instead. And so it's like, so is that not our universe? Is it a different universe where they're making shows that are just like our universe, but it's for, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to think here. Well, obviously, we know Kevin Feige does exist. Yeah.
Like, I was thinking, did Kang make Kevin? Is he going to come tie into this at all? Like, again, I'm doing that thing where they even called out in this episode where they're not everything has to be this massive conclusion.
Exactly.
But again, this finale manages to get me going there, even after pointing out that it doesn't need to go there. So, I mean,
Right.
kudos to that.
But I feel like these She-Hulk listeners or She-Hulk writers are probably like listening to all of these geeks and nerds talk about Kevin and like, well, when will we see Kevin again? And what does it mean for the MCU? And they're probably like, we're never bringing Kevin back ever again. Like, it's not going to happen. Like, it was just for this one moment.
Or he's a watcher.
Oh my gosh. You know what I mean? Maybe he's
Could
Mephisto.
be. Who
Maybe
knows?
he's Mephisto. I was stoked to see Daredevil again, even though he did spawn in kind of like a video game.
Well, like, where did he come from? Like, they're in
sky.
the middle of a field,
Hanging out in the
yeah, like
trees.
exactly, yeah. Like, it's just, it doesn't make any sense. How did he swing there?
I was relieved though to see that Titania knew who he was, and it leads me to believe that maybe she spent some time in New York because of the fashion scene there. So she probably knows of Daredevil because of that. I would have to imagine. I don't know. I don't know what the fashion scene is like in Hell's Kitchen specifically, but you'd have to imagine.
Well, who's to say? Maybe she knows the Kingpin, and maybe they both have the same juice inside of them, if you know what I mean.
Oh,
You know?
wait, the juice. What kind of juice?
Wait,
are
are we
say
still
it like
talking
that?
about last
Why-
week's
why are you
episode?
saying
Hold
like
on.
that?
Are you talking
Sorry.
about Gamma
Oh my
Goo
God.
right now? Oh my gosh.
I'm talking about Gamma Goo. I'm talking about the Super Soldier formula. I'm talking about all that stuff that could be, because we haven't really nailed down on what her powers are,
Right.
where she got her powers.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people pointed out in, when we first saw Kingpin, that he was a little more robust and he seemed to take pain a little bit more. Is it possible that, the power broker has been, shuffling some
Broken powers.
Maybe there's that
Super
connection.
Soldier formula, and there's a connection there. So I don't know. Could be interesting.
All right. Well, listen, these last few scenes, I'm going to go out of order just a bit because it's my show and I don't care what Kevin says, okay? So before we get to the final big moments at the end of the episode, I wanted to touch upon the moment, the specific scene in which we quickly cut to seeing a news reporter interviewing Jen on the steps of a courtroom. And she says, "If you attack, harm, or harass innocent people, I'm coming for you." To which he responds with, "Do you mean in a courtroom or as a superhero?" And she responds with, "Both." He then asks her what she's wearing today, and she shrugs it off and walks away. So how did you folks feel about this moment? Did it do enough for you to wrap up and represent Jen's growth and development as a character?
100%. I
Yeah.
would say that those two lines very much surmise the entire series for me and what it was about, and how it stayed very true to telling that story in its own way, with the comedy, with the fourth wall breaking, with the things that were very MCU conventional, but it all stayed rooted in her and about her character and her development. So I think that, even given the opening lines in the first episode about power and what power looks like and who holds that power, to see where that opening statement, where we get that opening statement and we're being introduced to the character, and then at the end here to have that sentiment of, both a superhero, both as a lawyer, she has come to accept both sides rather than, be relentless of, resistant to her Hulk DNA, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love this ending to it. And again, it kind of also harkens back to one of the covers where all the superheroes are on the steps of one of the law buildings and she's just going up in her business suit, because that is part of her superhero attire, is she can fight both on the streets and in the courtroom. So again, sums up her journey perfectly, and I don't think you could have done it better.
As like a woman watching this series, I don't think I've connected to anything nearly as much. So I was glad to see that she was going to be like a vigilante basically, but also like someone who's approaching crime from a legal perspective. But I was happy to see that like she changed the ending to the story, but the like narrative hasn't changed, where like men in this
world
universe really just don't understand how to talk to
what
women.
Are you wearing?
Yeah.
Exactly.
But she's like, no, okay, sure. Yeah. Okay.
It's just that reminder though that they're not going to fix everything, right?
Yeah.
And especially with something like that, they're not going to fix that with a series like this. But they can poke fun at it. They can draw apparency so that hopefully, like you were mentioning before, if someone was unaware of their own words or their own thing, they can be kind of enlightened, and maybe their thought process might change. You would hope.
I think that there's something that I saw recently. It was by a TikToker named Nathaniel Semson. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he has something called Singing Through the MCU, and he does like videos of every single movie like a Broadway show. Anyways, he had this really great reference. As I am the only woman that can truly connect that's on this podcast, I thought that I would share his sentiment with you on how men or portions of the fan base can like connect to She-Hulk. So he basically said, imagine your friend works at Costco. You've never been to Costco, but there's a new show coming out that is about a workplace comedy about Costco. And you can enjoy it, and you can view it, and you can share your opinions about it. But you and your friend don't really feel the same way about it. Your friend is in love with it, and they think it's really great representation for like how working at Costco is. But you share your opinions of like, I don't think that's actually how working at Costco can be, or it can't possibly be that bad. That is basically the lens of like being a woman and watching She-Hulk and being like, that's exactly how I feel in scenarios dating on Tinder, how I feel about interacting with men at work, things like that. That was a really great kind of description of like how it feels to watch this show, and how it feels to like hear people being like, She-Hulk is stupid and she got her powers from nepotism. So yeah, I thought I would just share that because it was super interesting. Shout out to Nathaniel Semson on TikTok.
I mean, Nathaniels usually have the best opinions, in my opinion, I think. But no, I totally agree with that. I think
nepotism, bro.
Exactly.
Nathaniel rhymes.
I think that's narcissism.
Narcissism. There's a lot of words that end. The narcissistic, nepotistic Nathaniel.
Hey, listen.
Absolutely.
Start writing the intros. But I did think. I did like this sequence. I honestly thought it encapsulated, like you were saying, Justin, like the entire point of this show and kind of what you're shouting out there, Alyssa. But the only thing I will say is I do kind of wish that this was the main focus for the wrap up of this episode. I thought that, having this happen almost in between two other sort of slightly bigger, MCU fandom moments, it feels like Kevin still kind of got his wish, when I kind of wish that Jen was really the main focus for this finale. But again, I the way that they just have her say both and smile, and again, Darcy, like you said, that animation is just phenomenal in this moment, and they knew they had to nail it for that moment. So if the majority of the budget went to that, then that's fantastic. And not giving Kevin a real hat. But listen,
I
we've
thought
got
his little machine hat was cute.
It was really cute. And listen, if the real Kevin Feige is not wearing that hat on the red carpet or green carpet for season 2 of this show, that will be a huge missed opportunity. Okay, Kevin Feige, call me. Let's make it happen. But we have a couple more big teases at the end here, and I actually wanted to have them for our prediction segment, which we call "My Closing Statement, Your Honor Is." So I'm going to read the scene, and then Alyssa, as our guest, you may approach the stand first. So in our final moments of the show, we see Jen as well as Matt Murdock at the family barbecue, where they ask where Jen's family asks incredibly invasive questions regarding Jen's new love interest, and we see that Bruce has joined the barbecue. We learn that Jen hasn't been the only one Hulk smashing, if you know what I'm saying. Hey! And we're introduced to Bruce's son, Scar. And then we also get a post-credit scene with Emil sitting in his prison, and Wong portals in to help him escape to the Kamar-Taj. And then we're asked why, he asks Wong why he's a bit late, and he says that he's been sucked up into another TV show, which I gotta say, like, honestly, when he says that they're in a peak era of television, that's probably the truest thing that Wong has ever said, because we are all, especially with the stuff on Disney Plus and recently with Lord of the Rings, and it's just a good time to watch TV shows as a geek. But I want to know, what did you think of this teen Hulk-sized reveal of Scar? What do you think that could mean for the future of the MCU? And where do you think we'll see these characters next? Because we did hear in the writer's room that they are working potentially on a second season. And Kevin, even though he said there's no movie, I don't believe him for a second. I think we're definitely going to see these characters on the big screen. So, Alyssa, you may approach the stand.
Well, my closing statement, Your Honor, is after this series, I think I have the most open mind. I don't have I think that She-Hulk is going to be in this movie or whatever else. I am just very open to see how they use her in the MCU, and I have no opinion about Scar or Hulk or anything, to be very frank. I'm just kind of excited to see where it goes from here. I do know Scar is from the World War Hulk kind of era, and I'm not familiar with it too much. Do they fight each other? Is he angry? I know he ages really quickly, and that's all I know.
All right. Okay. All right. Very brief closing statement. Darcy, get on up here.
Well, my closing statement, Your Honor, is that I think we'll definitely see She-Hulk again on the big screen. I wouldn't be surprised if we see her either in Armor Wars or Captain America: New World Order, both having very strong political or legal storylines to their plot. So definitely see her popping up in something like that type of role, or maybe even an Ant-Man to be more of bring out that comedic side of her in what is always a funny movie. As for Scar, he is probably only 10 years old at most. And it's not that he ages faster, it's that when he hulks out, he basically goes to his adult form almost. So when he shrinks back down, he's still just a fragile little boy, but he almost spends he never de-hulks because he's always angry at his dad for what he did to his planet, because he has a very tragic backstory in the comics. So it'll be interesting to see if we get that at all in a potential movie. And with the way that they were treating it this time, and the fact that we got this reveal after Kevin was trying to kind of shoehorn that reveal into the big climactic scene, I think that we probably won't get to see a World War Hulk. We'll probably just see the fallout of it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Justin.
Well, my closing statement, Your Honor, is I agree with my colleague Darcy. I believe that we will see She-Hulk return in something like Armor Wars or Captain America: New World Order, especially Captain America: New World Order, given the fact that we will get the leader. And I think the intelligentsia will be involved. I think, Nate, you talked about it as well offline, or maybe it was on another watch club. But with what Falcon and the Winter Soldier did, talking about Black Captain America and that as sort of a racial topic, and in America, I think going further with that in Captain America 4 and using the platform of intelligentsia to diminish and devalue Sam Wilson as the new Captain America could play a part, and the leader having wanting the super soldier formula and stuff like that. I think there's just a lot of elements at play that can make sense for her to show up there. And also there's rumors that they're recasting Ross, General Ross, with Harrison Ford, and that he is going to be making his appearance in Captain America: New World Order. So with all these characters in this movie, potentially, obviously, it seems fitting that she would show up there. In regards to Scar, I was surprised to say the least. It felt very much shoehorned in, given the fact that they in the scene previous with Kevin, she was like, "Oh, we're going to explain why he was on Sakaar," and "Oh no, we don't need to worry about that." And then it just kind of gets thrown in here in this like Fast and Furious family barbecue style end scene. It was very Fast and Furious, by the way. I'm just going to call that out. Yeah, it was all about family. It was all about family. They're having a barbecue, right? So it was in the backyard and everything. So I think that was a tongue-in-cheek way to point out, that ending that reminds everyone of togetherness, right? Like, the threat's gone and now they're together. So yeah, I thought it was a bit strange to kind of just throw that in, because like Darcy said, it raises more questions than it answers, and I think what's next? Will we see what happened when he did leave and he went to Sakaar, and right?
But is that like 5 years from now that we'll see that? Like, when do we see that? Right? Like, we don't know.
Well, apparently Universal still holds the rights to the Hulk movie
until like
and that's
the beginning
supposed to go up 2023.
Yeah,
2023. Yeah. So it could happen. It could happen sooner rather than later. I think it's likely. Whereas the X-Men, part of the reason why they're being pushed, like it's being held back, is because for whatever reason, contractually, they can't recast those characters until 2025.
Oh wow!
After 2025, so that's why there's a lot of slow pace of the mutants. Right, we might get new mutants that we've never seen, like Namor. We've already gotten Ms. Marvel,
right?
So.
Or maybe these Hulks, maybe Scar is a mutant. I don't know. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, absolutely.
He only survived because of old magics and gamma stuff, so definitely some mutations going on in his system.
Okay. My closing statement, Your Honor, is that this barbecue scene was crazy. To see Matt Murdock, the hero of Netflix, and hanging out with not only Jen as Jennifer Walters, but the Hulk is in the scene. Like, we've got one of the original Avengers in a scene with Matt Murdock, was just so dope and just further solidifies. I know, but it's just great. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, you hope it'll happen, and then it does happen. And I'm going to say this 19 times over when we eventually, in 2026, when we get all those X-Men into this cinematic universe, when we do eventually see Hugh Jackman standing in the same room, as, I don't know, whoever, as freaking Ant-Man is standing there for some reason. But I will say, I did love that Jen's dad is immediately talking about them having kids, and then almost in a way where, like, even in this moment, Bruce still has to be like better than Jen, and he's like, "I've got a kid." Like, immediately, I've got a kid. You're a grandparent now, like,
true.
or a cousin, uncle, or whatever he is to him. But
uncle,
he's a grand uncle. But it's just so funny that they was just like instantly, here's a kid. I agree that the arrival of Scar, I do think it very well could mean a World War Hulk's movie. I think that would be really cool. I think it makes sense because even if Kevin did remove the blood plot resolution from the finale, that doesn't necessarily mean that he erased the fact that her blood might be out there. You know what I mean? Like, I still think that could be the case. Maybe Todd didn't get it, but it still happened, or maybe the intelligentsia still has it, or what have you. I still am on the basis of thinking the intelligentsia is bigger than the one sect that we heard of.
100%. Yeah.
Because
where is Josh?
Well,
that's what I want to know.
Right? Yeah. Josh is leading up the more important, less doofy side of the intelligentsia, most likely. And I think it's interesting because I think if we think about another group that was a shell company. We had the tracksuit mafia that was laundering money through the shell company in Hawkeye. I'm just trying to remember what it was called now. It was
Trust a Bro.
Well, Trust a Bro was their moving company, so they had multiple companies, but they also had Sloan Limited as well. And so I'm just wondering, like, maybe that's not the only thing that they're doing is laundering money, but maybe they are also a part of the intelligentsia. And I could totally see that being the case, because I think Kingpin would fit in with those bros.
I think the Kingpin could be involved. I think the Power Broker.
Yeah.
She's got to come back at some point. I think this is all like this is where these villains might be living, is in this intelligentsia, with the leader and stuff like that. I think that it's very plausible that this is kind of like our, villain team up thing.
Yep. I think we're going to see Jen in the New Blood series. I think she's going to maybe not star in it, but she'll definitely be on like a
New Blood.
Is it called New Blood? What's it called?
Reborn.
Reborn. My bad. I think she'll be in the Reborn series.
You mean Born Again? Daredevil Born Again.
Is it Born Again? Yeah, it's Born Again. Yeah.
It's like, what are you guys talking about? Just call it Reborn.
I thought you were talking about
Daredevil.
Twilight. I was
I'm
like,
talking
what?
about New Moon, the new Twilight New Moon movie. She's going to be in that.
Yeah.
No, I definitely think she's going to show up in the new Daredevil series. I think she's going to be on a call. I think maybe they'll be chatting. Maybe they'll keep their long distance relationship going on. But I definitely do think that possibly he might also be dealing with some of the fallout from this her blood being out on the market. I think Nikki and Pug, we're going to see them in Jen's whatever movie appearance that she has. I think they'll just be there for a quick cameo, which is sad because I want more Nikki in everything. Just bring Nikki. Just bring Nikki and freaking Madison into all these projects, and I think the internet will be pretty stoked. But lastly, I do think Abomination will show up in the Thunderbolts, and I'm praying to Mephisto that Wong and Madison are going to be in another show with whatever show he comes in. I love that meta humor of him being like, oh, he's been sucked into another show. I don't think it'll be Secret Invasion, but I think it might be Loki Season 2 or Agatha Coven of Chaos. It would be incredible if Madison becomes a witch in Coven of Chaos. Like, I'm just saying, man, I want all these characters to come back. I think the supporting cast, alongside Tatiana Maslany, did such an incredible job with this show.
I also like that end there, how he doesn't have Wi-Fi at his own retreat, yet the first thing he asks when he's going into Camartage is, do you have Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, where do you really care about that? And just didn't want to pay for it? Like, what was the deal with that? I like that little random sense of humor there.
I had a question. This is probably strictly for Darcy because of his wealth of comic knowledge, but in regards to seeing She-Hulk or Jennifer Walters show up in something like Secret Wars, is that a possibility? Would she go up and defend the universe against the Great Tribunal or something like that? Would we see something like that? Could she be acting on Earth's as the defense attorney for Earth? Because I think that would be pretty interesting to find a way to connect her, so grounded into something that could be very relevant. With it's the Great Tribunal that I'm thinking of. It's the four heads that they have the claws. They would be they're kind of a decido factor for the universe. So I was thinking maybe is that something that we could see?
Possibly. I mean, again, in Secret Wars, I feel it more like she'd be defending, the people who have been in hiding on Earth, but not causing trouble, because we do know there's a Skrull faction there. So I feel like that'd be more the connection that we see her in, potentially leading towards her representing Earth for sure, or just the main universe in this, multi-dimensional courtroom. It would be very on the nose for her. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
I personally would love to see, again, just a very grounded character suddenly being taken to a very cosmic level where it's either, she's defending, her universe against the Great Tribunal, or even a celestial being of some kind, you know what I mean, of anything. I think that would be really, really interesting. And she's making a defense, and she's creating a case and stuff like that. You don't need to make it super comedic, but just the idea of like her value and her importance, and again that she's both, that she can be both the hero and the lawyer. So
yeah, Alyssa, I know you mentioned that you were going to start getting into Secret Wars. Have you started reading it yet, or not yet?
I just recently moved,
Okay, that's fair.
all of my stuff is in boxes just off of camera.
Yeah.
For all the listeners,
Yeah.
We're in a new apartment.
Yeah, no worries. I want to get to it so bad. Darcy, you've raved about that series. So
like any time Marvel releases, one of their big titles that has these crossover events, they are usually worth reading because they are really cool character explorations, because they take these ground level heroes and stick them into cosmic level issues, which is very, very exciting.
Well, with all the recent movie delays for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think we've got a decent amount of time to catch up, and hopefully we can read ahead a little bit. But listen, I think it's time we give our overall impressions of this episode and our final score, which will be on a rating of 1 to 5 wall breaks. And then we're also going to share our final score for the series, which will be on a rating of 1 to 5 She-Hulk smashes. So Alyssa, as our guest, I'm going to get you to kick us off here for final thoughts.
All right. I would give this episode 4 out of 5 wall breaks. I did that right.
Yeah.
Amazing. I really enjoyed, like we said, like all of the meta conversation. I really enjoyed that. We got to see like Jen kind of be the narrator of her own story. I wish that we would have gotten maybe a more satisfying end with Todd. Once she kind of returned from talking with K.E.V.I.N, I was kind of surprised at how quickly we just kind of like tied up the loose ends and didn't see how the loose ends were tied. Yep. But She-Hulk has been one of my favorite shows so far. I would give the entire series 4.7
Rhymes with
She-Hulk
Kevin.
smashes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Only on the basis of like, I wish we had a little bit more of a satisfying ending. Right. I wish that, to be very honest, I wish that kind of portion of Hulk and Scar was not included in this portion, because he was just gone for so long, and then at the very end it's like, by the way, here's something about someone that wasn't in the show at all, but you guys are watching because like, you want to see Hulk, So very satisfied with the whole story overall, but not super satisfied with the ending.
Okay. All right. I think that's kind of an ongoing, theme for the Marvel Cinematic shows, and I think a lot of fans, both the fans with the good criticism and the fans with the toxic criticism, have that's something they have shared. It's that one idea that the finale is not quite as good as
it feels rushed.
It does.
Sometimes,
yeah, it definitely does.
Always.
Even though this series did have more episodes to play with. Justin, how about yourself?
I think this finale was a breath of fresh air, to be frank. It very much subverts all the MCU expectations to give us an ending that feels very much rooted in the character of Jennifer Walters and also known as She-Hulk. It purposely finds its way to close out her story, rather than focusing on what's next in the MCU. I think those seeds are obviously planted, but they're not the focus, which I think is fantastic. I agree with Alyssa. I think throwing in the reveal of Scar at the end there with Hulk feels very like thrown in. And I liked that, in the previous scene with Kevin, he was like wanting to do it, but Jen's like, no, we don't need to see that. I just wish they committed to that. Yep. I wish they had committed to that and just kind of gave in at the end, and it gave something to the fans that I think, again, as we were mentioning, raises more questions. And it's just like, wait, what? What? Can we go back to that for a second?
Right.
But I think that's the whole point of this episode, very much so, is to not necessarily say fuck you to the fans, but it is to kind of say something to the fans in regards to chill out. calm down. Things will happen. I think the MCU is getting not necessarily toxic, but it's getting overloaded with a lot of these fan expectations of where things should go. And fan theories are fun, proven right or proven wrong, it doesn't really matter. But it's the expectations, and then it's like, this isn't what I expected. That's not what I want from the MCU.
Right.
This show and this series finale very much in your face says, this isn't what you expect. This isn't the traditional ending. This is about She-Hulk. And I love that the show is, the title of the show was, whose show is this? Right? Because again, the entirety of this episode is to remind us that Jennifer Walters, the show is about Jennifer Walters. And it closes out really strong on wrapping her story. So again, small faults in the episode, but I think this episode keeps the consistency of the entire series with tons of laughs, super meta qualities, very self-referential, leaving me with a very satisfying feeling for this finale. So I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 wall breaks. Now for the series, I think this is yet another example of the MCU giving us a series outside of everything we know and expect from Marvel, and it delivers a show that does break those expectations and brings in a new genre that feels fresh for Marvel to play with. I think in many ways the series is designed to talk about bigger things like representation, femininity, toxic masculinity, toxic fandom, all of these things that are very prevalent in real life. It brings it to the forefront and embraces it as part of its nuanced storytelling. It implicates it really well with both very satirical qualities while also very real world, as Alyssa pointed out, based on this TikToker who kind of outlines it. It is real. There's a real audience that connects with these situations and identifies with feeling uncomfortable in moments that I think for a variety of reasons men don't fucking really take into consideration. And I think it is pause for a lot of, just for everyone to really reevaluate how they approach situations in interactions, whether it's dating, whether it's working with people. Going on this idea of it feeling very real and very, very connected, that extends into the cast. Tatiana Maslany, I'm not going to remember all of their names, but Pug, Nikki, everyone that was in this show brought a sense of authenticity to their characters that made them that much more relatable and the audience to connect, which I think, again, you have like MCU and then you have comedic and then you have these real world connected things. It's kind of taking the best of what we've seen from everything in the MCU and mixing it together to create something that is like unlike anything we've seen. And yeah, I really enjoyed this series. I was very surprised from the get-go. It had kept me very happy throughout, and all the moments that it breaks the fourth wall or that it says, oh yeah, this episode's not going to be about that. Oh, you want to see Daredevil? Nah, fuck that. You're not going to get that in this episode.
Right.
It was tons of fun, and I loved that they did that very, very committed, very confident throughout the entire series. So 4.5 out of 5 Hulk smashes for She-Hulk Attorney at Law.
Okay. Yeah. I think, kind of what you said there in terms of the fandom, seeing something and having an expectation, and it's not what they would have written, and then therefore it's no longer valid, or it's not good. I think we can criticize after the fact, but I agree with you on the stance of like, it's so much fun to theorize. That's literally what Watch Club is for. But when we get it completely off basis and it's completely wrong, I think it's actually a delightful thing. It's really fantastic.
We enjoy it.
Exactly.
We enjoy it. It's not like, oh, well, I didn't like that. Maybe sometimes we're like, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I don't think we would hate it or dislike it or just say that it doesn't matter anymore because it didn't end up the way we wanted it.
Exactly.
It's just different from what we would have expected, and we can embrace that. I think that's the idea is to embrace all of this stuff rather than just putting up walls.
Yep. And I think people need to stop with the basis of, the quality of this thing is based on how much it's for me. There's a lot of folks that are like, oh, it's not for me, so therefore it ranks really low in terms of the quality. No, that's not fair. Like it's absolutely still a phenomenal production, and if you don't jive with it, you don't jive with it, but you can't diminish what they achieved or accomplished. Darcy, how about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I love this finale. Again, my gripes with it do lie the same spot as Justin and Alyssa. in that I would have liked to see how Kevin or even just Jen would have explained away these changes that they made to the story, as opposed to just kind of jumping to the end and then moving on really quickly. Overall, though, I love the humor. Again, greatest fourth wall breaking we've seen to date in pretty much any video or visual format. So I love that. Gonna have to give this finale a 4.5 out of 5. Just 4.5 out of 5 wall breaks, mainly because I wanted that. The storytelling at that one point just seems kind of like a cop out, and I understand it was to get to the end of the story, but I kind of wish we got a bit more. As a series overall, I've been again loving it the whole time through. There were some dips in what we perceive to be the storytelling, and as they pointed out in this finale, that it's not always about this big bad reveal at the end of the series. It's about the character growth along the way. And so the fact that they really nailed that landing in this episode, I think really goes far to say that they really knew what they were doing throughout the whole series. So I'll be sitting right there with Alyssa and giving this one a 4.7 out of 5 Hulk smashes for the series, because it was so fresh and so relatable in so many ways that I hope that Marvel continues to have this kind of approach to their content.
A 4.7 for Kevin.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I think for myself, I'm a little bit conflicted with this episode because, I mean, as I said, I was giggling, I was laughing, I was smiling the entire episode. And after talking with you three, the episode, honestly, I've enjoyed it a lot more. But sitting with it and reflecting on it, I can't help but feel that while it was incredibly creative, it did leave me wanting more closure than it gave. I felt as though it worked so well to give us a true She-Hulk style story wrap up, but it wasn't gratifying in the sense that I would have loved to see at least some portion of the story kept through, because even Jen in this episode calls out that it doesn't really feel like the episode is focusing enough on like her growth or her struggle with being a She-Hulk, and instead it just gets really messy, and even after she fixes it, it gets messy. With the introduction of Scar, as you guys said, I really don't think that was needed right in that moment. That might have been better as a stinger right at the very end after the credits. And I think it kind of takes away from honestly, a really great but brief moment of her saying, when she's like, I'm both. But I mean, all the stuff with Nikki and Pug in the episode was so incredible. And it had the best use of fourth wall breaking that, again, I've ever seen on screen. But I just feel as though I should be walking away from this finale feeling like Jen has actually accomplished knowing herself more than even in the previous episode. And I just don't know, for me, if that final scene with her and the interviewer was enough to actually show that. But I'm not going to get too upset. I'm going to give this episode fourth wall breaks out of 5. As for the series, I did really enjoy it. I think it's incredibly difficult to pull off what they did with this show, and in a show that is almost entirely like a meta commentary on the fandom that it's playing to week, it's a commentary on us. I think you take a lot of risks when you get people invested in narratives that you just drop at the end. The whole joke in the writer's room about making the entire second season a dream, it helps me to understand that this, obviously this was intentional, but I still think it could have been done with a little more nuance, a little more moderation as to what was kept and what was dropped. And I think, like the finale, I think the entire season is a bit messy in terms of pacing. I think, I said it before on a previous podcast, previous Watch Club, I would have loved for them to maybe do a 1 week with Kat Coiro and then another week with a new Valia's episodes, which were the 3 episodes in the middle of the season. I think that would have given us a narrative pushing story 1 week and then a side quest the next week, and do like a back and forth. I think would have just been a better pace. But listen, this show gave us Madison with 2 N's and 1 Y, but it's not where you think. And Nikki and Pug and Emil and Wongers. Yeah, and ultimately Jen herself, Tatiana Maslany, all of them, they're the highest points of this show, even more than the narrative. I think the characters are so well written, and I was just laughing so much to really focus too hard on any of the low points of the season. I still think episode 8 was the best season of the show because it gave us a narrative forward adventure. It gave us an adventure that was filled with great She-Hulk moments, great Daredevil moments. It had fantastic fourth wall breaks, and it had a lot of really great fan moments as well, but it also had moments that were filled with stakes and consequences. I feel like if they switched the finale and episodes 8's intentions, it might have worked for me a bit more overall, but ultimately I just had such a fun time with the show, and at the end of the day, it was so confident in what it's messaging, and it's such an important message. So I'm going to give the entire season of She-Hulk Attorney at Law a solid 4 out of 5 She-Hulk smashes. All right, well, listen, before we wrap up, Alyssa, let me thank you so much for joining us for yet another Watch Club finale. Would you mind letting our lovely listeners how they can both hear and see more of what you got going on that there Twitch of yours?
Of course, yes. I mainly am on twice a week on twitch.tv/Itsyourgirlalyssa, where we do Pokemon card breaks and giveaways and lots of fun stuff. You can also find me on Instagram at Itsawissa, Twitter at YourGirlAlyssa, all with a W.
Yeah.
And TikTok at Itsawissa. But if you wanted to hear a little bit about my friends and what we talk about, it's kind of like a reflection of Geekcentric, but from a female's point of view. It is Video Dames, the podcast, and you can find that anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Dope stuff. We'll have that all linked in the podcast description. It's always a party and a rush when Alyssa, when you're cracking packs, when you're pulling Zards, when you're dropping bars on that Twitch of yours, it's always a lot of fun. So definitely go check that out and maybe pick up a couple packs of cards. You have Marvel cards on there too, don't you, for our Marvel fans?
I occasionally do, yeah.
Very cool.
That's the only non-Pokemon product that I have because the Dragon Ball and all those other things, I can't figure it out.
I'm sure we can all look forward to your Lorcana openings though, because
oh my
you're
gosh,
probably getting
yes,
into that stuff.
I will have Lorcana, absolutely.
That's gonna be so dope. Well, that is it for this week's episode of Watch Club and for this entire Watch Club for Marvel's She-Hulk Attorney at Law. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts or predictions on the shows we cover in Watch Club, well, let me just bust into Justin's computer monitor and send you over to him to let you know how you can reach us.
That was so aggressive. My God, I made everything so clean, and now it's a mess.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Well, they can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or they can reach out to us on Twitter at GeekcentricYT or on Instagram at wearegeekcentric.
Keep in mind, we also have a ton of other episodes covering the latest and greatest shows and movies out now, like our recent spoiler-filled discussion for Werewolf by Night, where Darcy just absolutely went beast mode, dropping some really dope details that you might have missed during the special presentation. But don't worry, if you haven't watched Werewolf by Night just yet, we also have our spoiler-free review out for it now, as well as spoiler-free reviews out now for Andor, as well as Amsterdam and Hocus Pocus 2. And we have a ton of interviews, like with the director of Hocus Pocus 2 and some of the amazing cast. And we also have interviews with the lead writer for She-Hulk, Jessica Gao, who, again, I say, was in this episode, as well as director Kat Coiro, who directed this finale. So go check out those interviews, both here on podcast services and on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. And lastly, Justin and Kevin recently got to witness the hierarchy of the city of Toronto change when they stood a stone's throw away from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson at the gold carpet premiere event for DC's Black Adam. And they have some lightning reactions that they're going to share in an upcoming spoiler-free review dropping real soon. So, Justin, I'm so stoked to hear how your experience was just standing that close to the greatness that is.
Oh, dude, it was surreal. It was so cool to be that close to the great one, the people's champ. We got some video content that we're going to be dropping ahead of our episode that will recant our adventures of the event and our review. That episode will be dropping next week, October 18th. So be sure to subscribe to us on all our social and wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss that episode.
There you go. Again, thanks to our friends at Warner Brothers Canada for getting Justin and Kevin over to see, not the robot Kevin, of course, our Kevin, over to see. Although I wonder what the robot Kevin would have thought of of the movie. We'll have to wait and hear his review. Well, listen, go give those episodes a listen, a like, a subscribe, and leave a 5-star review if you don't mind. Darcy, Justin, and Alyssa, thank you so much for joining me for this Watch Club. And as we say for potentially the last time,
Hulk smash.